Hey everybody, John Reagan here, and yeah, it's time for another coffee chat. Excuse me for pulling out my phone this time though. I want to go over a few things. I want to make sure that I, stay on track. I have a tendency to drift. Active minds. So yeah, basically, I just want to come to you guys today, go over some stuff. I've been going through some different things that have come up. People have said online after putting out the tariff thing. And just to clarify, the electric motorcycles will get 100% tariff. All right, just so we're clear. The reason for that, and the reason I'm sure about this, is this last batch of motorcycles we imported were hit with the 25% EV tariff, right? That exact same tariff and its application is increased to 100%. So that just means that, yeah, these things are gonna go up. So, and it just makes it even harder to sell them. I mean, quite honestly, they're a hard sell because their cost, right? Versus versus a similar motorbike, a gas bike. So increasing the price, especially when you're bringing it in from overseas, it's just going to be more difficult. So with that in mind, I want to go over basically, who we are, because we're getting ready to really, get things going and put some stuff out there. So, just want to go over kind of my background a little bit, go over Tom and Doug and what they're working on, what they're doing right now, and just kind of some of the understanding we've come to when it applies to bringing an EV to market, right? First of all, I do want to say it's insanely expensive. Like, wow. Some of the costs I've been seeing on these EV cars, just wow, it's crazy. Luckily, motorcycles and bikes don't have as much of an overhead cost, mostly because of the level of regulation that's applied. There's just a lot more in cars, there's a lot more to them, and both motorcycles and e-bikes, bicycles, have a much, I want to say less stringent, because motorcycles do have a pretty stringent DOT set of requirements for street use, but they're definitely not the level of cars. So we'll get into that a little more. So yeah, so basically, what qualifies me to run this company? Nothing. I'll be honest with you. If you start a business and you think to yourself, I'm fully qualified to run this company, you are fucking lying to yourself. There's so many things that are gonna come up. There's so much stuff you're gonna have to learn. There's so many things that happen and so much work to get done that you are deluding yourself if you think you're gonna do it all right? So one of the things I wanted to address was somebody asked me, do you know how to do this? Do you know how to make a controller? Do you know how to make a motor? Do you know how this all works? Supply chain, this and that. And the answer to most of those questions is yes, right? I know enough to be dangerous in the field. Do I know supply chain? Yes. Do I know how a controller works and how it's put together, how it's built? Yes. Do I know how a motor works, how to build one? Yes. Am I gonna do it? No. Of course I'm not gonna do it, right? When you study leadership, when you start getting in and working with CEOs and executives, one of the first things you learn is that you're not the one doing all the work, right? The idea is you lead the work, you lead people to do the appropriate work that gives you the gains and goals you're looking for, okay? So what I used to do before I did this, was I would help those people, those CEOs and executives, to define what they're looking for based on their goals, and then go out and find those people for them, right? So if you follow any of the big YouTubers and actual business Instagram people and stuff, I don't mean like, hey, look at me, I have a Ferrari, I'm big. No, I mean the guys that have actually, or ladies that have actually created and sold businesses, right? One of the first things they tell you to learn, the very first thing they tell you as a business owner, mind you, not self-employed, but as a business owner, is to learn to hire the right people, okay? biggest reason for that, and the reason corporations spend tons of money on it, is because hiring the wrong people will cost you way more money than if you even had to pay the right people more, right? There's a fallacy in corporate world, as I like to put it, where we have to stick to a chart, even if somebody's like amazing and can really like not just raise the bar, as some places put it, but blow the bar away. We feel the need to hold them down, and that's not something we're looking at doing here. I've studied a lot of leadership principles over the years, and probably the one I was most impressed with was when I was at IBM. I got access to Tom Watson's archives, and Tom Watson, I'm sure there was bad stuff about him, whatever, but in reading how he viewed people and how he proposed and pushed to treat people as the number one resource in his business was phenomenal. And aside from government contracts and stuff, if you ask me, that is the key reason why IBM grew so quickly and so greatly in the way it did, right? It was one of those forever jobs where you got an IBM, bro, you're hooked up. So, not so much anymore. It's changed, it's modernized, as you might put it. But the perspective of people, right, in your business having the greatest value, I think, is something that has to be reverberated, that has to be done in this business, right, in our business. So, yeah, so I've actually sat with and studied with CEOs and executives and all kinds of fun stuff, and learned a lot about how they operate, right? Things that go wrong. I'm one of those rare people that learns from others' mistakes as well as my own. So, and man, I've studied them all. It's been interesting. It's been a very interesting thing. I worked with a lot of tech companies over the years. So Microsoft, IBM I mentioned, Amazon, all kinds of them. Siemens for a while, which is really cool. When I worked there, I got to bounce around at Microsoft with all the different groups. Had a lot of friends that worked there, so I get to hang out their workstations and stuff, and it was interesting. It was an interesting time. So yeah, my background is kind of both business strategy as well as hiring, and more deep tech, because I've been working in code since I was a kid. My 10th birthday, I got a dot matrix printer, so I could go through review my DOS code, correct it. Oh, DOS code, that tells you how old I am. So learning things quickly, getting up to speed quickly is something I've learned over the years, and something I've applied here as well. I do understand how these things work. We do have some really interesting developments in process right now. That's why I keep looking over and waiting for this, hoping this bike doesn't fall off this rack over here. It's pretty stable, but I always worry about that. So, there's those components, and I've even worked on theory and stuff like that as well. So, when it comes to what I guess would qualify me to run a business like this, or to even be a part of a business like this, I would say, first of all, passion for riding and quality. I've seen some stuff that have come out of some American manufacturers that I would never have let leave the shop. I mean, there's just no way. It borders on dangerous. And it shows me a big lack of pride. And when I've talked to the machine shops around here about getting stuff done and parts made so we can get all welded and put together, there's a big sense of pride that they want it to be good, that they want it to be solid. So, so it looks good that way. Tom and Doug. So, like I said, I know enough to be dangerous about this stuff, but I am no way the guy sitting there doing the designing and development, all right? Rumble has done their own stuff. They have their own teams, and we've been slowly kind of getting in there with them and stuff as we can. But Tom is my business partner, Tom Sapia, and he has a background in high voltage electronics, both development and design. And he's done crazy setups, laser setups for various venues, as well as various artists who he's toured with over the years. And so Tom has a really strong grasp of the technology. He has a very strong grasp of the future parts and components that we would need to basically make other pieces on par with the graphene battery that Rumble has. And by that I mean the graphene battery that Rumble has, to this point, I mean, we can't even tax it thermally, right, in charging it. Equally, when we look downstream from the battery through the rest of the system, we begin to see bigger bottlenecks, right? Or I should just say bottlenecks, not bigger ones. But the battery itself is relieving a bottleneck that lithium has, okay? And making things higher current and higher flow. Now with that higher current, higher flow also comes heat, right? In the traditional sense of what we use now. So Tom is working on what I would call a next gen controller that's gonna be very low heat, very high flow, and be able to pair a lot better with the graphene battery that Rumble's produced. Additionally, we have things we're working on when it comes to motors. I can't really talk about that stuff right now. And a big part of what I've been working on and looking at the production is how we do production. So Tom's working on reference design of a few things right now. And I'm looking at how do we produce these things. It's huge. So there's some interesting manufacturing processes that I think we could get into will make us a lot more agile than traditional press methods. So kind of taking this agility of the bike that we were working on, or bikes, because there's a couple in process I'll talk about in a second, and applying that to our manufacturing process. I see, when I look at manufacturing, the concept of pressing is great and it's standardized, but I think there's other newer methods that are out there that we can take advantage of to not only add quality in the process, but add agility, so we have reduced production line downtimes while upgrading or integrating advancements in what we're doing. And Tom also, speaking of all this manufacturing, Tom also has a background in setting up manufacturing. Tom, there's a reason that I call Tom our Chief Engineering Officer here at E-Powersport, because he has the engineering background to bring this stuff that we're dreaming about to life. He knows where to look for it, he knows how to find it, and he knows how to design it. So next would be Doug Stadler. Man, I love that guy, I miss him. He came to us last summer, and I've mentioned him a few times before, but Doug is a design engineer, and he's worked to design battery packs for companies. He last summer designed his dream vehicle, at least the rolling prototype that we have here, that whenever I show it to people, they like love it. The look on their face is so great. And they like, you're either gonna have a lot of fun or kill yourself, or both. And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I want to hear. So we have stuff in development right now that I really I've mentioned it, but try to downplay it, some other stuff. And this manufacturing opportunity is gonna allow us to bring Doug's and Tom's skill sets more into the open. I mean, you guys are gonna see stuff that they're doing that is just phenomenal. I mean, it really blows my mind. And Doug is like gung-ho. He can't get enough of this. I mean, we've talked about doing another design, and once I discussed doing casting with him, which somebody brought up to me and doing it, he got stupid excited, so I love that guy. Now, the thing you have to realize too is we're not getting paid for this, all right? We are doing a lot of this just out of our love for it, our passion to do it, right? We all live on the cusp, you might say, because to some degree, the profitability availability isn't quite there if you're not actually making them yourself, right? There is some range, but I think the educational stance that we're facing right now when it comes to electric challenges defining electric motorcycle versus e-bike, which, by the way, I'm going to do another video on that later. I think it makes it difficult for people to feel fully comfortable in making those purchases, right? One of the big things I do here too is with the motorcycles is people don't necessarily want to do registration and insurance, which is fine. But realistically, federal says you can only do 750 watts then, right? So there's reasons for all of that stuff. But yeah, so Tom and Doug are working on some amazing things right now, and they're doing it just out of love, you know, really, to get it going and support the business and get us on. You know, we're ready right now with one design to, well, if we count Rumble, if we do theirs, if we get that set up and we start doing theirs, that's first production line, and then the second production line will be what we call the Kamakuri. So third production line will probably be casting of our modular unit. I said too much. I should shut up. Anyway, so let's get on to some other stuff, because first of all, what Tom and Doug are doing, like I mentioned, we're doing out of love. We're pretty much doing this stuff for free, and putting our own money into it to keep going at times. But I mean, there is some profitability here. There are some sales. It's just a matter of getting the right product. So I think there's the right product are the ones we are going to end up making here. So, yep. And then I was looking at over the last couple weeks, and I've reviewed this before, but just the general cost, to bring an EV to market. Now, when you look at EVs, the first thing you think of is a car, right? You don't think of motorcycle. And car tooling, manufacturing, processes, the size of a facility you need, you're talking billions of dollars. As a matter of fact, the average is $2 billion to start, and then you need another $2 billion to get through the first year. And then another $2 billion to go here, $2 billion, $2 billion, $2 billion. It's crazy. It's a crazy amount of money. Which is why I think motorcycle manufacturing and bike manufacturing makes more sense to start, right? If you can hone those in, which have fewer requirements overall, the average you're looking at is more about 20 million. So, I mean, yeah, fraction of the cost to get to that point. And there are companies here that that are available to make motors, right? That's another thing Tom is working on, is motor design, and getting us a really efficient motor design put together. Yeah, it's just interesting. So the cost is tremendous. I'm not going to deny that, right? Somebody mentioned, oh, do you know what the cost is? I'm like, yeah, it's about $2 billion if you want to do a car to start, and it's about 20 million or so. You can probably do it on 10 if you want to do a bicycle or motorcycle manufacturer. So yeah, the costs are there. They're pretty, I don't want to say standard, but there's definitely ways you can mitigate some of those costs overall. One is the type of manufacturing you use, right? So as I mentioned before, one of the biggest costs in manufacturing is press, right? And when you make a press, that's it, right? It's that's the form, right? You have to get a whole new press plate to change that part. If you have a revision, you need a screw hole here, oh, you have to deal with it. It's all new. It's all new, and it's all money. It's very expensive, which is of course why 3D printing takes off so much, right? It's expensive, but in comparison to tooling costs, which tooling is expensive, it can be a lot cheaper, right? And there's all kinds of tooling costs involved. There's tooling costs for your vendors, right? If they take an order from you for so many units, they're gonna have to build out so that they can build up, build your product, build your piece that you need, that part, that custom whatever. And so there's that, right? There's all kinds of costs involved here. But if you start small, right? We're not talking about building 5, 10,000 units the first year. We're talking like 150, right? 200 units the first year. You work out your production kinks, as they call them, or however you want to do it, and then you work a continuous improvement environment. You can very quickly and very rapidly iterate into something very efficient, right? Something that helps you keep your costs low while providing high quality and giving the customer really what they want, you know? And from my experience, a lot of people want a high performance, high quality, American made electric motorcycle that doesn't break their bank, right? So, I do understand the production costs involved. I do understand that it is quite a bit of money, but I also understand that even with 40, 50K, you can get started at least, right? Once you have that initial start, you know, banks are gonna say, oh, well, you need money for parts. Let's give you a loan for that. Oh, you need payroll. Let's hook you up with that. It starts the process, right? Oh, hey, we set up this manufacturing facility and we're a little short here for XYZ. And, you know, that's when you reach out into your community and get the money you need usually. But, oh, come here, bud. Yeah, he's got a diaper. He's incontinent. So, you work those things, you bring your costs down. We've already seen that at scale, supply chain and manufacturing, even in a place as expensive as California, can allow you to reduce your costs significantly. So doing it here in Las Vegas kind of makes a lot of sense. We get access to California fairly quickly, so anything that comes in, we can get here relatively fast and inexpensively, and vice versa. If we have our own trucks, we can just go pick it up. So we're in a good spot for distribution because we're able to send things out in all directions. And when it comes to manufacturing, I think Las Vegas is an ideal because even though we have heat and cold extremes, we don't have any real crazy weather, right? You look at some of the other places that companies are setting up this type of manufacturing, and they have some crazy weather. Some places get flooded, some places have crazy snowstorms that shut your production down, and Vegas is a 24/7 town, right? So the odds that we would be allowed to run 24/7 shifts to meet production goals are very high, right? Yeah, so to me, it creates a very high-end opportunity for production of this kind and really any kind. So yeah, so we'd be looking at batteries, controllers, motors. The wiring is gonna have to be upgraded a lot. Connectors we're looking at. It's just a lot of stuff, you know. But there's development costs, there's return, and I really think that by pairing with Rumble Blix for the battery and helping to move the other parts forward the way we can, we're gonna create a whole new market with a whole new set of shit. It's gonna be crazy. Yeah, so like I said, skipped ahead a little here already. The ask we're looking at, even on the low end startup, like get in for a few $100K kind of thing, these are just startup, right? It is gonna take a lot more money to build the battery infrastructure out, so that we have the supply chain set up and so that we can build it. Those things will be probably in 75, 125 million, right? But I think that it's reasonable. Holy crap, monks just showed up. Hey guys. No, I'm serious, there's a van full of monks just piled out here. up front. Whoa, dude. Namaste. Hey, so I was just like, all right. The Shaolin showed up. No, I'm just kidding. They're Buddhist monks. Maybe not. So that was distracting. Oh, the dog perked up. He senses them. So anyway, so the ask we have is to really get the production facility up and running, at least with the first line for the Apex Predator, and then to move into our second and third lines. Line 4 is unchosen yet. That one's an interesting one. But yeah, that's some of the stuff flying around on line 4. See, because each one is its own bike, right? Each bike has to have its own production line. So it'll be interesting to see. But in the end, you know, honestly, all of this and even the stuff we're doing doesn't work if people don't support it. So if you don't want to support US manufacturing, just, you know, I guess don't. And everybody keeps saying, oh, well, there's Land Mode and there's Rivet. I'm like, well, there's two. And here's this other company that builds stuff with parts out of China. And these guys all build stuff with parts out of China. So their prices are going to go up. And they're not using the graphene batteries. So they're going to be stuck on lithium. So their prices are going to go up. So, yeah, really looking at taking the advantage and leveraging it as much as possible. But when it comes to the graphene batteries, even discussing it with RJ, we really want that to be to everybody. I mean, it's not just, oh, it only goes in the Rumble bikes. No, everybody should have access to this. Everybody should be using it. It completely replaced lithium in so many ways. But that's not to say that lithium wouldn't stick around for other uses, like, say, watch batteries, right? Very great in those little watch batteries. I don't know exactly how the graphene will work in that little disc. I think it needs a little more surface area. But it still, you know, leaves lithium some space, right? But we don't need to mine lithium like this crazy thing. You can actually produce graphene. It's carbon. I mean, yeah. Even talking with the guys, it looks like we should be able to recycle these cells right off the bat, reclaim any graphene, and probably get a net gain on our carbon graphene, because of the carbon within the other materials in it. So yeah, so that's interesting. And yeah, so that's it for me. I went on a little long, I think, a little longer than I anticipated. Like I said, I traverse. But the reality is that it's a long road. It's difficult, and we need help, right? We need financial help. We are going to be assessing, you know, basically the work we have and the roles we need to fill. And we'll be looking for those people. So, yeah, I mean, if you want everything from, you know, shop supervisor all the way up to head of marketing and stuff. I mean, man, that's crazy stuff. That'll be fun though. So yeah, so that's the coffee chat today. Remember, if you want to support U.S. manufacturing, buy our Chinese bikes. If you order it online at the full price, you know, that they're listed for, I'm even thinking about having T-shirts made up that say, "I bought a Chinese bike to support U.S. manufacturing." I bought this bike to support U.S. manufacturing. Maybe a little certificate for you. It's like, you know, founder of U.S. manufacturing efforts kind of thing. But I don't know, man. They do all kinds of crazy stuff like that on Kickstarter and Indiegogo, and people eat it up. So I don't know. If you want me to do that stuff, leave a comment below. Be like, yeah, John, get me a T-shirt. I'll buy your stuff for full price. I'm down. All right, let's do it. If you think that's corny, don't say anything. Anyway, that's my coffee chat for this weekend, this Sunday. Like I said, it's not that I'm specifically qualified to do this. I'm just qualified enough to find the people that can. All right.
and hopefully provide them with enough guidance and leadership with what I see from the industry, and the direction things are going, to get us to success, to get us to producing these and getting them in your hands so you can ride them. Yeah. So remember, keep an eye out for them.